Welcome everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sounding okay in the back there? All good? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Just making sure everybody's in the right spot. If you haven't been looking at this giant slide that's on the screen, we'll be talking about pitching, publishing, or printing on demand today, kind of three popular paths. Obviously with this proto spiel, this is going to be a topic of great interest because you might be wondering what happens next. Now they've got something, a design I'm proud of, and I know also one thing I want to acknowledge, we'll probably have a lot of people who have experience in one or more of these in the room, so there will be a variety of points where I'll actually give you a chance to share too your thoughts and best practices, strategies on these too, because I know I look like I'm 12, myself, so you're probably like, what does this guy know about anything, right? I want to give this group of people who are knowledgeable a chance to share too. So there's going to be a digital way, and then of course the old-fashioned way, raising your hand will work too during this session. So we'll give opportunities for that. So just if you are wondering who I am, I have a publishing company in the board game space called GameStorm EDU. Might kind of gather from that last three, that one area we focus on, not just our entire focus, but we do make games that fit in a classroom, but they're not designed to be educational first. They're designed to be fun games that could work in a classroom space. So we sell both to commercial users and educational spaces. And then my 9-to-5 job, I work at UW-Whitewater, and I coordinate the instructional technology and integration in our College of Education. So I work with future teachers to use tech in the classroom, hence why you'll see a little tech bias during the session today when I'll give you a chance to share your thoughts digitally, or like I said, and even as the tech guy, I love a good low-tech hand raise, so don't be afraid to raise your hands during this. So this is a little bit about me. Shameless self-plugs, I'll get those out of the way right away, and I may have hit everybody, but if I didn't, just let me know. But we do have our next game, so I'll talk about our first in just a second, but our next game's coming out in February 2024. We just announced our Kickstarter launch. It's called Doom Scroll, and it's your first day at the fantasy social media company Doom Scroll, and you're trying to create a feed addicting enough to sell the most ads, so that's your goal. In this game, I know isn't that what you want to play? Just a game about the sad state of social media. Our goal with this game, first and foremost, have a fun, kind of lighthearted game that has a lot of good flavor in the cards and some fun, quick gameplay. But then also just with facing the schools, we want to help them think about social media literacy and what is happening to them when they hop on their screens on a social media network. So I handed these out, but if you're interested, we do have a launch reminder for Doom Scroll on Kickstarter. So if you want to sign up to be reminded about it, I've got it on those little cards I handed out. So it's just bit.ly.doomscrollfund on that one. And then also we're offering just a little, if you are interested in a pre-order exclusive, we have a mini expansion pack of some of our unique postcards that you use in the game. So you play postcards to create the feed and then slide some ads in there. So if you want your own exclusive, postcards, yeah. They're not postcard size. They're actually like 2.5 by 3.5 poker. But if you are interested in that, you can pre-order those for $1, and then as long as you back, you get the exclusive. So those won't be available during or post-campaign, just a pre-order exclusive. So I swear this is the last shameless self-plug in this. Maybe there's one more. I don't know. I'll check. This is the last one. Okay. So then just want to mention our first game is Game Stormers. It is like hyper-targeted to this group. It's a game where you design a 5-card game. So your goal in the game is to create the best game idea. During the course of the game, you try to create the game, pitch it to the fellow players. You can either win by being voted up the best game or by scoring the most points by creating a synergized game idea. So it's a kind of a strategic creative game. And it is on our website and then on that big, evil conglomerate that we all love. So just get that plug in. If you would like, we do have, I'll just do I'm going to put one into the bingo game, but also if you want to win a copy, there's a bit.ly here, and you can scan that, and there's just a form where you can submit, and then I'll just draw a name and let folks know who won at the end of the session too. And then I just need to go retrieve it from my car because I realized I didn't actually bring the copy in today, unless you want my gently used copy in my bag, which I don't think you do. So I'll grab it for you, but if you do want to do that, you can fill it out anytime during the session. And then there's a spot too, no pressure, for your email if you want to join our mailing list. If you don't want to, that's totally fine too. I swear I only message once a month. I maybe broke that during Black Friday. There might have been one Black Friday plug in there during November in addition to our newsletter, but I swear, usually it's once a month that I just send out, hey, what's happening? You know, what are we talking about on our blog? What's kind of new with our Kickstarter, all that good stuff. So again, that's up there, bit.ly/GameStormWin. You can scan all that good stuff to win a copy. Good? All right, enough with the shameless self-promotion. Should we actually talk about what you came here to talk about? Sounds good. So our topic today is deciding what route you want to go, and you might go multiple routes. I know I personally do all three in some way, shape, or form myself, so you know, it's not like you have to pick one, but I am kind of curious, and we'll open this up a little bit with our first kind of digital question. It is wondering what folks maybe are hoping to focus on and what they're most interested in, because that'll give me a little bit of a tell of what you want to focus on. So just to define these things, pitching would be you are finding a publisher who's a good fit for your game and you want them to manufacture it, release it. You would probably get some sort of commission. You know, commissions are usually the typical, you know, a percentage of, you know, the sales, you know, whether that's off the MSRP or the, you know, the gross or whatever it might be. Publish is you are starting a company, you are interfacing with manufacturers, designers, artists, things like that, and you are producing the game yourself. Maybe you're going to crowdfunding with it. This would be what I primarily do. And then print on demand is you'd be using a service like a game crafter, you know, like a you know, launch tabletop, like a drive-through cards, like, you know, insert company here, and you would have it on their platform and people would pay to print that at their leisure and get it shipped to them. So those are kind of the three areas. So with that, if you have a device and you want to indulge me, the first question is up there on this website. So if you go to polev.com, if you have a phone, if you have a laptop, if you have anything else that's connected to the guest network or your own, polev.com/COEPS. There's a question on there, what is your primary goal with your game design? And then there are four options: publish myself, pitch to a publisher, print on demand, and not sure yet. Or maybe not sure yet means I want to check out all three. So I'm just kind of curious what might be kind of leading the pack so far. Is everybody seeing that when they go to that? Okay, cool. I like to see thumbs up. Hopefully this isn't too much of a fallout shelter. I think I'm getting signal. I got a couple bars, so just enough to do this. So I'll vote as well, see how it's going. Let's see how our poll is shaping up here. All right, votes are rolling in, so, and if you need I think I can make that slightly bigger? Maybe not. That did not make it much bigger, okay. Let those votes roll in. Yeah, this is kind of like a game, right? We could just have the next big board game will be Polls, the board game, and you just want your poll to win. No, it doesn't sound, now that I'm hearing it, I don't like it. Yeah, this is probably, I think, a reality, just the most, feasible reality, because there is so much tied into the publishing and the print on demand that goes outside of a lot of the comfort zones. I know I'm still outside my comfort zone being a publisher myself. But yeah, pitching to a publisher, and that is the one I actually started with for that very reason. I kind of figured it would be leading in this poll. And then it is good to see that we've got some folks who are like, hey, I just kind of want to, think about and consider the ins and outs of each. So like I said, I'll be talking about things to consider with each, strategies, tools also. I didn't put that in the title, but tools. And then we'll turn it over to all of you. So you can keep this page up on your phone as long as you're not incurring terrible costs every second that you're on the internet using your data. So thanks for indulging me on that. let's go ahead and talk a little bit about these now. So again, pitching is my definition of it. You show idea to a publisher to see if they will give you upfront payment or commission of sales to own the rights of the game, right? Some of them, sometimes you get those rights turned back out to you. Sometimes they're like, no, we get it in perpetuity, all that good stuff. So that's just my definition of it. So I'm going to give you 5 kind of considerations and strategies for each, some tools, and then again, turn it over to the group. If you do have questions, comments, things like that, and you don't want to wait till the end of each section, by all means, just jump in and raise your hand too. So number 1, why you might consider this route. I kind of alluded to this a little bit. If you pitch, it's because you love the design, but you don't love the business aspect, because this is everything that comes with it. So just give you an example of this week. I signed a contract with my marketing company that I'm working with. I am reaching out to the logistics to get my future game from China to the US, right? And praying that customs doesn't randomly stop it and charge me an extra $2,000 to crack open a couple of boxes, right? Had that close call with Game Stormers, actually. Fundraising, you can see, ramping up the Kickstarter. I am having to shamelessly plug my game, and I am filled with anxiety every time I hand this to somebody and say, hey, if you don't mind, maybe just check it out, tell your friends. So doing that, considering what I should be charging each backer to fulfill their game and get it to them, keeping in mind they don't want to pay the full shipping costs, right? If I charged each of you shipping, it'd be like half the cost of the game that I'm designing, right? And that would be a pretty big turnoff, I would imagine too, right? So this would be an area where if you pitch, you offload all of that to the publisher, right? So consider this. This is everything that comes with it. Ask yourself, do I have one or more of these interest areas or skills, or does it sound like something I want to learn? If it's not, then pitching is a lot better route for you, right? The other thing too is if you are somebody who is a publisher, or you think you might want to be a publisher, you may pitch if your idea is not a good fit for what you want to be as a publisher. I have this situation a lot. I market a lot to schools, and turns out a poker game with supervillains is not a good idea to pitch to schools, right? Like having kids play poker. Like that's one design I'm working on, and it would not fly in a K-12 environment, right? It'd be a bad look. If I tried to release that game, it wouldn't work well. I was working on a party game where you're lawyers, and it has a lot of inappropriate cards. Never gonna put that under the Game Storm EDU label. Just not gonna. Like it's aimed at people who maybe have a few adult beverages or just want some laughs with the family. It's not gonna work for my brand. So those are pitchable in finding a good match, because I don't want to sully my brand with these games that don't fit it. My audience is gonna lose trust in me, right? So that's something to think about is, you may want to dip your toe into a lot of these, but you have to ask what's a good fit for the brand you're trying to build. And even if you're just making a one-off game, asking yourself if it becomes a two-off game, what are good fits? So Doom Scroll was a good fit for my next title. A lot of the other games I've been working on are not, and so they are pitching. I'm focusing on pitching those games, right? So that's another consideration is what do you want to be known for, and is this game design a good fit for what you want to be known for? Cost, right? I just mentioned a lot of things that are going to take cost. So publishing is expensive. You can ask me. You can especially ask my wife every time I, run something new to the card for the business, right? And say, hey, this is a thing that will net this much down the line, right? So I have to, when I'm justifying these costs, in terms of our family and everything, I gotta say, well, for the business, going to this conference should net us this, right? Consumers, districts, organizations will see it, and I project that we'll be able to do this, or we will sell this many copies of the game, right? And that's true for everything. I'm signing a marketing contract. I'm assuming that marketing group will bring X amount of emails to my email list that will hopefully convert 10% of the people, who get that email to back us in our game, or down the road maybe buy our game, right? So just keeping in mind those expenses, it's going to be at least a 5-figure venture to publish a game, at least, right? It's going to be hard to keep it under 5 figures unless you're really talented at multiple of the steps. So those are all things to keep in mind is, do you have money, or do you feel comfortable taking out a loan? Do you feel comfortable, doing something with that mortgage, right? I haven't had to do that, but that's everything to think about. And then keeping in mind too, if you're starting up as a publisher, unless you have like a moonshot idea that really hits, being okay knowing that maybe project one is a break-even project and maybe the next few projects are your making money projects. So keeping that in mind too is that first one, you're just trying to establish yourself as a trustworthy brand and just being okay with that. If you're pitching, we're getting into strategies now, you are gonna more than likely need a digital version of your game. The pandemic really made this a reality before it was becoming more and more of a reality, but you need to accept that you're either gonna have to develop one or you're going to need to hire someone to develop one. The one thing I will say I've found is that companies haven't been as picky about the medium as long as it's easy to use. It's something that's not gonna be like the platform is going to get in the way of you using it. So I've had plenty of companies who don't mind if it's tabletop simulator, which is going to be a purchased product through typically Steam and installed on your computer. I personally use Tabletopia just because I play test a lot with students and they have Chromebooks, and Chromebooks you can't install things like Tabletop Simulator. So Tabletopia, I can have a bunch of sixth graders pop on and try my game on a Chromebook, right? It could be ScreenTop.gg if your game is more of a card game that doesn't have too many external pieces. ScreenTop.gg is really great for card games. I like Tabletopia because you can do a little bit of everything. You can have tokens, you can have playmats, you can have dice, you can have all those different moving pieces. So one thing I'd say is just find something that is going to translate. But this is something that's going to be more common because a company is more than likely going to say, hey, this sounds intriguing, this sounds like a fit. Let's hop on a call and try out your game digitally if that's possible. Versus you shipping out a prototype. It might be one of your 5 that you got made. You're hoping it comes back to you in one piece or with all the pieces. You're hoping they even look at that prototype you mailed them. If you can afford to go to a conference to show them, in person, you're probably competing with a bunch of people at that conference. Whereas if you can hop on a call with them, walk them through it. The other thing that's nice too about these is it's a little easier to quote unquote, I hate to say it, stack the deck, but digitally it's a little easier to stack the deck. Sometimes you can plan out how that game's going to unfold. You can do that face to face too, right? But you can do that digitally and have a pre-made, like this would be a really great dealing of the cards, and they don't need to know that, but you would know that, right? So showing them your best mechanics and planning for turns that are going to have interesting choices, you can have a pre-made deck instead of you like making the deck, getting it back to the perfect play. You can kind of have it set as a perfect playthrough. So I would highly recommend just making sure you've got that digital version in a way that they could either pick up and play. You can send it to them and say, hey, fire it up, play it yourself, or you can walk them through it. On a medium. That more and more has become the norm rather than just an add-on or an opportunity. And then the other thing too, this for some of you might be really, really obvious, but you need to have a sell sheet that really emphasizes your best features of your game. So sell sheets are just kind of an expectation at this stage. Sending that along, with your, an opportunity for somebody to digitally access your game is crucial. I just grabbed one, in one of the forums that was out there that I think does a pretty good job. Number one, you want those, just great look of the components and celebrating the best parts of your components. One thing that is absolutely crucial is kind of your hero of your game. I think I stole that from you, Sam, or you stole it from somebody and then I stole it from you. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. You stole from him and I stole from you. But anyways, what is that thing that sets your game apart? What is its killer mechanic experience? What is that moment? Like, do you perfectly capture what it's like to grift somebody in your game? That should be first and foremost, like celebrated, up here, right? You can kind of see this one has like the pretty tagline. What is the exciting mechanics about it first and foremost? Again, the prettiest aspect of that game board. How do I get, more information about this game? How do I get in touch with you, the person? If you can fit it, some of the key contents on it. This is just a really easy and accessible sell sheet. The only thing I'd say about it, maybe even still a little wordy, like maybe even lean a little bit more into the graphics of it. And so that is a huge part of a good pitch. Digital version, and then really effective sell sheet that gets your message across and celebrates those key ones. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you have a source for like sell sheet templates.
Yeah. Oh man, you like set me up perfectly. Yeah. I'm going to talk about a tool that I like to use for sell sheets. And then, sell sheet templates. I think, honestly, like a template's a go-to. I think just going to a lot of those board game design forums and checking out what other people do is really good. You know what I need to do is add to my site. My site is partially celebrating and trying to sell our games, right? But it's also teaching students how to be game designers. And I think, a sell sheet template would be great, or some sell sheet templates. I should add those. That's a good idea. I'll credit you. We'll jot down your name and get it on there. Did you have a question or comment up here? Okay, did I dream that? Okay, yeah, right here.
The digital setup, does that require like some educational skills to learn how to use it, turn your game, a physical game, into a digital version?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, let's pop back to that one. So it depends on the platform you use. Some of them I think are really pretty user-friendly, like ScreenTop I personally feel like is pretty user-friendly. It's like taking images and dropping them in there. If you can grab an image file and you can put it in there, you can usually work your way around. Sometimes they are a little finicky. Like I use Tabletopia, and I find I do have to finick a little bit with my image sizes and how it's gonna look in proportion. So I will say, it takes a little patience, but not too much of like a learning curve. Whereas if you get into some of the tabletop simulators and any platform, if you're trying to make it automate, then it usually takes a little bit of extra skill. So like, hey, when I do this, something is triggered, right? This happens. ScreenTop and Tabletopia are more like, it's an open kind of blank canvas where you move stuff around. Nothing's automated, right? When I use an app and I do this happens, right? It triggers an action. These are just, you have the assets there, you can move them around, you can tell this deck to shuffle, but it's all on you. The user has to tell the stuff what to do. If you're doing anything fancier, and I don't think for a pitch you need something that's automated, not me personally. Yeah, question or comment?
Say I wanted to make something a bit more automated or complex for Tabletop Simulator. I tried it on my own one day, got absolutely lost. Where would you recommend to go as like a little crash course for that?
Yeah. There are forums dedicated to TTS. And then if you want to get really like fancy, one thing we're planning on having as a stretch goal is there's a bunch of people who want to get dev experience in some of those platforms where it's automated, like Board Game Arena. Board Game Arena being, one of the more popular platforms. You can actually show your kind of game prototype to those devs, and they'll either quote you a price to automate it, or some will just say, hey, I'll take this project on so I can add it to my portfolio. Thank you. Yes, it's like we were playing a word game right there. We were playing like the next big like person awkwardly trying to think of a really common word. This could be the next big party game. All my game ideas so far have been terrible that I've come up with. Polls the game and awkward guy up front trying to think of the word portfolio. I don't think either of those would sell. But I would say Discords, Discords and forums related to those are probably where you're gonna see the best action of where to get that. I know I see a lot of questions just answered like in some of the Facebook groups around board game design. Somebody will be like, hey, I'm in TTS and I know I should be able to make this transparent and overlay on top of it. How do people do that? And some people jump in, but the Discord groups, which are kind of like those gaming kind of chat, almost like a mix between a discussion board and a chat, are good for that too if you utilize Discord or are interested in seeing where those conversations are going. Yeah, great comments and questions here. I appreciate it. One thing, just strategy-wise, as we talk a little bit about this, and then we'll also talk. We'll talk a little bit about tools too. So this is probably the number one mistake I was making early on, and then I hear from others in those forums about a big mistake is you really need to make sure you understand your fit with the publisher, and you really need to show the publisher you've done your homework, because they're going to get hundreds of pitches, right? Cold pitches, in events where they've sanctioned for pitches, they'll call for open proposals. And one thing that they always will do, a good publisher, and you've seen it in your proto-spiel messages, like, this is what we're looking for. Don't pitch us other things, right? You might be like, oh, but I've got this killer idea. You're gonna love it. But no, it's not in our brand, right? Or our brand is not looking to move in that direction. You need to, in your pitch, tell them why it fits in what they're hoping to do, how it fits nicely in their catalog. Show them you know their catalog. If you can't name a game in their catalog and you're trying to pitch yours as a fit in it, it's a bad look, right? You can say, hey, this is a really nice stepping stone from game X that you make into my game. Wow, it shows you've done your homework. It shows you understand the mechanics they value. So when you're doing your pitch, you need to see why it's a good fit. Like right here, if I'm pitching to Underdog Games, who makes a lot of the trekking games, I want to make sure that I use these terms that they are looking for, right? Why is it going to spend more time on the table? What is the passion that's being celebrated in my game? And what is going to make people curious? Like, does my game also give you like little fun facts about the historical people that are featured in it? Because that's something that they value, right? So this is all something to think about, is you are really trying to show how you fit the vision of that company. And so the more you can do that, the better you're going to be. So make sure you understand their look-fors, and you're not just saying, well, they're going to fall in love with my game because my game has great mechanics. No, you are the one who's trying to fit in their vision, right? And if your game doesn't do that, you can save yourself a cold email and pitch to somebody who's a better fit. So that's a huge strategy, is understanding what that company does and just not saying, well, they're going to love my game because it's a great game. There are thousands of great games. All right, so tools of the trade. One that I love for infographics, Canva. Canva it gives you an incredible feature set in its free version. It has a paid version. Honestly, the free version could probably get you where you need to go. So canva.com, excellent, especially if you're not good at graphic design. If you are a graphic design talent, then you can use more advanced programs. If graphic design is not a passion area for you, Canva can get you up and running in no time. What's really great is you can say, hey, I want an infographic style layout, and to this question about where do I find layouts, you can actually look and say, hey, show me some cell sheets. They might not be game related, or you can say game and then infographic and see what comes up, but you can play with the assets. And the other really great thing is you'll see like a template you like, and you can play with the color schemes of that template to match what your aesthetic of your game. You can grab their free graphics to kind of give that the feel that you're looking for. So Canva is just like a cheat code for designing really great graphics. If you go on my site, there's tons of things that were designed by Canva. We have a game design curriculum we offer free to schools. Designed it all in Canva. I made it color code with our company's colors. Grab their graphics, I can recolor their graphics to fit our company's aesthetic, so it all looks unified from the GameStorm Edu brand. I'm not a graphic designer, but I made it look passable without having to pay somebody $500 to lay it out, right? Yeah?
I was a graphic designer, and I hate Canva because it's so easy. But one of the other things that's very useful for it is that you can upload a brand, all the brand assets, like your color scheme, different shapes of your logos. And when it comes time to generate social media, especially animations and stuff like that, it just puts it all in there and saves you immense amounts of time.
Yeah.
Even beyond the cell sheet.
I love it. Yeah, I would be remiss to not mention too, like instead of paying like a couple grand for some of the the moving graphics, Canva actually has video editor too, and I'm gonna have like a character like from our upcoming Doom Scroll, like dropping cards in, and I'm going to animate that all myself. I'm just going to have the character asset like move the cards and drop them in where they go in the feed, and so I'm going to make my graphics and save a few thousand, and it's looking passable, right? Yeah, sorry, yeah, I'm not using AI to do it. Does that make you feel better? Yeah. No, okay. It's actually like a human doing it, but I'm going to use like that to do it. I am hiring a 3D artist to do like some other work on the game, but yeah. So it can also do video too if you're just looking for some teaser video content as well, which is great. Another tool I mentioned before that I use is Tabletopia. So to your question about what do you need to know how to do, like. I have my game boards for Doom Scroll, I have my card fronts and backs, and I uploaded the images and just resized them. So as long as you understand images and uploading things to a website, Tabletopia, this is my game board, here's my little game pieces, and it's ready to go. And so now all this is drag and drop. People can hop in the game space and move this around, flip it over, have cards in their hand that will show up here on their screen that they can look at and drop in. And so this is just kind of a web-based physics editor. I bring it up because if you don't have something that can support Tabletop Simulator, or Tabletop Simulator seems really intimidating, I think this is a nice middle ground. And again, if you have just a card game, I'd probably go with something like a Screen Top. I think there's also Tabletop, I want to say Playground 2 is another one that's out there, also good. It's just, I kind of give the tiers of like Screen Top, Tabletopia, Tabletop Simulator. Again, totally up to you which one you want to do, but this free, I think you can do 2 games for free and then you have to pay. So I have like Game Stormers on there, and Doom Scroll, I might pay, for future prototypes that I'm using, but right now it's getting the job done for me. So yeah, that's just a quick look, tabletopia.com. I'm also going to have hey, if you want to try out our game on our Kickstarter, go to our Tabletopia, click on it. You could try it. Just go to the link and play around and check out the cards and see how it flows, in addition to watching our videos. So just making it available that way too. So those are kind of my two big go-tos for my sell sheet, Canva. For, hey, do you want to try this? I use Tabletopia. Yeah, so I do want to turn it over now. I'll flip the question to the next one. So the next question is going to really be, let's tap into the knowledge in the room here. So it'll just be pollev.com/COEPS. So what are your best strategies, tips, and tools for pitching to publishers? So those of you who have done this before, or those of you who have been researching it, what have you read? What have you tried? What are your go-tos for this? So I'll open this one up. And then again, it's going to just be pollev.com/COEPS. If you left that up on your device, you can go ahead and put that in. And you should be able to submit anything that you want to include. So I'll give people time. Is that showing up on the devices? Okay. Yep. So go ahead if you want to put that in. I also, as people are typing, if you don't have a device with you, or you're like, hey, this is Proto Spiel, I want to unplug John. No, I'm not using a device. Yeah, you can raise your hand too and share. That's totally welcome, as we've had people kind of share and bring up. Great one coming in right away, Do not oversell your game, or try to align your game if it's a bad fit. I think that's a really great piece of advice right there. You can also, if you love people's advice, you can actually see them come in. You can upvote them. You can also downvote them, but don't do that. That's mean. Yeah, great point here. Elevator pitch. If you found yourself in an elevator with whoever, like Jamie Stegmaier, how would you tell him the most amazing parts of that game ready to go? So yeah, you should be able to recite this in your sleep. What is that incredible part of your game? What sets that game apart? What is it doing that maybe people haven't tried? Or what is it doing better? Or how does it marry the theme and mechanics? The hero for me for Doom Scrolls, I really feel like we have connected that feel of running a social media feed with the mechanics of the game. I feel like they match up really well. And I feel like we've got this perfect mix of flavor and gameplay to kind of satiate that kind of light middle weight, right? I really do feel like we've got that. Yeah, we're not afraid to pull a few punches with some of our characters either. All right, so we've got, yes, if you want to, give yourself a leg up, if people can put a name to a face with a pitch, that's so huge. We can all relate to this, right? You're more willing to buy something from somebody or make a partnership with somebody if you meet them versus if they're a email with a silhouette next to their name, right? It just is. So if you can go these events, and you might be saying, well, gosh, that's expensive. Publishers will oftentimes pay for you to go if you showcase their game. And then while you're there, you make connections. You put a name to a face, you drop your sell sheet, you chat, you try to pitch if there's some open pitch times. So that's a really good thing to do. Yeah, schedule time. I mean, just be all over those pitch schedules if you can get to expos. There's online pitching. Another great one is contests. GameCrafter partners with a lot of people to run contests. Submit yours to a contest, and sometimes those judges will just be like, hey, I know yours didn't win, but it was my favorite. Let's talk, right? That's just getting your ideas out there. Speed pitching, absolutely. The great thing about this is even if you don't get picked up at a speed pitch, you are practicing your pitch and is becoming muscle memory. So this is a really great strategy. Love it, absolutely. Let me make sure I didn't miss elevator pitch. Yep, okay, perfect. Tons of good ones coming in here. Any low-tech shares? Anybody just want to throw one out there and they're like, forget you and your digital platform, John? Anybody want to? Yeah.
I want to hit on something that, and maybe everybody here already knows, but something that I've been doing for about 10 years now is volunteering with companies and using that to make connections.
Yeah.
Because they pay for you to go. Well, not always. They drive a lot. But
yeah.
They typically pay for your room. Sometimes they pay for food. And depending on the company, sometimes you're working 10 hours. Sometimes you're only working 8, and then now you've got time to talk to other people. So
yeah.
use that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's cool is you kind of get it modeled to you how they teach you to pitch games. And so you're also getting valuable skills in how do you teach? How do you pitch? How do you do that? It's not your game, but you're getting that practice. Or maybe it is your game, which would be really cool. But yeah, that's a great one. And yeah, to that point, I mean, that gets you there at a cheaper rate, especially. And again, gets you a network connection. They know you as a person who's put in the hours, and they'd be more willing to sit down with you and hear a pitch because they know you've put in time for them. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, networking, it's not no different in the board game industry than it is any industry. Networking is huge. I network more in the EDU space, and as a result, we get a lot of sales to schools. And I will say one nice thing about schools is they'll buy 5 copies of a game instead of 1 because they want to distribute them, they want to have multiple kids playing. So what's kind of cool about that industry is it's not, a family or friend group buying 1, it's, multiple just so they can have more students experience them at once. And I don't make as many sales if I don't make those connections from my work and just trying to put myself out there. So that's been huge for me. All right, I almost missed this one. Have a space for your backers and fans. Yeah, absolutely. I will admit I don't do a great job of this. I've got a Facebook group for Game Stormers. I've been working on hopefully getting a Discord off the ground for Doom Scroll because I think it might be a better fit for that kind of medium. But having a space where people can talk about your game and not just on a Kickstarter page, that's a space, but having a digital space where either your company, people can talk about any of your games in your collection, or you've got that. We'll talk a little bit more about that too with the print on demand as well as I look at my time and start panicking. But this was the number 1 choice, so I do want to note that I am supporting the number 1 choice of the people. Okay, yes?
Just a quick interjection. You mentioned making a Discord. I will be 100% real with you. You may have your stuff, we'll lay it out, but hop on that Discord train immediately. Every Facebook community I've ever been a part of, the second they make a Discord, Facebook just dies.
Yeah.
Instantly. Discord just grows. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've been in both, and it just does seem like it's more lively, and just that immediacy of like that text-like feel I think is a big part of that. Yeah.
Further to that too, if you can collect email addresses from your players and playtesters and any parties that are interested, because having a list of like, hey, here's 100 people who are already interested in this could be a really valuable asset in your pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. If you show you've got a following just as a designer, you now have that crowd. Like, I can help bring this crowd if you do pick up this one. I mean, that's just another piece of the sell. At the end of the day, the publisher, they don't just want to publish it because they like you. They believe it will make money. Like, they can't just do it, be like, you seem like a good dude. This isn't gonna, make us any money, but hey, let's be buddies. That's not a reality. So yeah, if you can show you're gonna be a value add as well to that brand, that's huge. Yeah, I love it. Okay. So we've got, I spent 40 minutes in the pitching, and now we've got 20 for the publish and print on demand. But that's okay, because again, I went with the statistics, and it said the majority of you wanted to pitch. So I'm going to go with that. So publishing, you've got it by now. You're the company, right? You are putting this out. This is my primary role. I do pitch. I do print on demand, though. So again, this goes back to point 1 of pitching. Why would you pitch? You don't want to do this thing. Publish, you do want to do this thing, and you really need to accept that, yes, you can pay people to do these things, but you are still the contractor, right? You have to think about, you are building a house when you're a publisher, and you are typically the contractor. Hiring out that contracting is just going to add yet another expense. So you really are coordinating, just like getting the walls up, just like getting the electrical. When you are a publisher, you are coordinating the art, you are coordinating the marketing, you are coordinating the manufacturing, you're coordinating with GameCrafter to get the prototyping, right? So you need to understand that it's all going to be part of it. And I just shared with you in the pitching, like, save money by pitching. You're going to absorb the money. And then the other thing too is your time is worth money. I have a full job. I have a daughter. I'm expecting a second in April. Hold your applause or applaud. No, either way. No, don't do that. It's never good when you ask for applause. That's a bad presenter sign, right? So time is valuable to me. When I put my daughter to bed, I switch into publisher mode, and I'm publisher mode until I go to bed, right? I try to do that while sitting next to my wife so that we, can be adjacent and chat while I'm trying to be a publisher. But, that's the mode I move into, and I try to keep my weekends as much as I can to us and making memories rather than being a publisher. But I just accepted that. Like, that's a trade-off. My gaming systems and my hobbies, and actually the amount of games I play has dropped precipitously because I'm in publisher mode. So you need to also factor in this one. It's time when you're a publisher. It just is. A lot of hats, a lot of time. I've learned a lot, but I've also, sacrificed other passions I have to be a publisher. So just keep that in mind. This is a really great thing about being a publisher, though. This is my favorite part, is I am not pitching a game to somebody and they said, hey, I know you love this being about chefs. It's about penguins now. We love your game, but it's a penguin game. Sorry, penguins are hot. Chefs are out. Like, too many cooking games, right? So something that can happen is they'll affect your gameplay. They might pick up your idea, but they might take it to their developer, and their developer says, actually, this key mechanic, we're gonna do this. We're gonna streamline it, we're gonna change it. We still are keeping your core idea. You're still getting your commission, but this part of the game has changed, and you just have to be okay with that. You also have to be okay with, if you're pitching, like, your game might be 3 years away when they pick it up, right? It probably is 3 years away when they pick it up. They need to go through all their steps. They probably have a game release schedule, and you have to accept that your vision isn't going to come to life on your terms. It's coming to life on their terms. They may just sit and spin their wheels on it, and then the time has passed where it was a viable idea for them, and they give it back to you, and now you're 3 years later, and you could have been pursuing this idea yourself, right? So these are all things you have to keep in mind, but when I publish, I get to decide what is that artistic direction. I get to decide what the release schedule is. I get to decide how I market and I promote it. It comes with a lot of responsibility, but I don't have anybody compromising that aspect of it, which I love. I don't know, maybe I'm a control freak, I don't know. But that's a great thing about publishing, is you aren't at the mercy of what that company is going to decide. I mentioned this before too. If you're going to publish, you probably want some savings. You have to be okay with maybe taking out a loan, and you may have to be okay with doing the whole crowdfunding, rigmarole, right? You just saw me handing out cards. I printed them last night, to make sure I just give you every opportunity to bump into my Kickstarter, and that's part of the life, right? I have to be okay with it because I'm not in a place where I can front all the money to get this manufactured. So if you back Doom Scroll, no pressure. You're helping me get over that hump to manufacture it, finish the art, right? You're kind of being my big crowdsourced loan to make this dream a reality. And as a thank you, it'll be discounted for you. You'll get all the cool benefits of the Kickstarter and all that fun stuff. But I have to be okay with that, and I have to be okay too putting myself out there and being the shameless plug guy, right? That's all part of it, right? And you just need to be okay, and you need to communicate with your loved ones that, hey, this will be a financial commitment, and you have to have a plan. You have to say, what does this company look like in 5 years, 10 years? Because if you are going to publish a game, it comes with starting a company. It's hard to do it without. If you're publishing, we talked about audience building. It's good for pitching. You have to be able to develop and build and grow and support and respect an audience constantly. That's one thing I feel like each day I'm like, have I done at least one thing for my audience? Have I given them an update on the art on social media? Have I prepped the next monthly newsletter to give them the newest information? Have I responded to emails with people having questions about shipments? And have I done each of those steps with respect to them and always, assuming their best intents and giving them the best experience, right? And then the other thing too is you need to understand who that audience is. So for my games, it is heavy families who have kids who are school age. It's schools. It's people who maybe are new to the hobby. I've got a lot of new to the hobby people who play our game. I need to be okay with, like, hardcore gamers aren't going to love all of our games, because a lot of times our games are like, hey, let's get you into it. Let's scratch that itch of some skill building and some fun gameplay. And knowing that, like, maybe we're not like the epic 4-hour game, but we're rather like a fun game that gets you strategizing, gets you talking, gets you laughing a little bit too. And so understanding that target audience, understanding too where they are. Where am I going for these audiences? I go to more education conferences than game conferences to pitch our games, because I'm going where my audience is. I'm marketing mainly to gamers on online tools. Ironically, social media, where my game pokes fun at, the next one. But just need to know where they are. And then the other thing too is you really need to figure out where you can tell your story and where to do that. I am here. One reason I'm here, not only just to give back because Protospiel gives me tons of assistance in my process. It's an opportunity, I won't lie, to tell my story, right? shamelessly plugged, both games, but I'm trying to tell a little bit of our story here today. But you just need to find where those are. I reached out to UW-Madison, my alma mater, and they ran an article on the College of Education's page about game stormers. And I had to be okay with I despise bragging. You might be like, yeah, you've been doing it a lot during this session, haven't you? It doesn't seem like you have to be okay with if you believe in the product. It's not like self-service, it's not bragging. Like if you believe in the product, it's okay to share it out with people, right? Now you want to listen to people and let them share out, but it's something where you got to be okay with that. Yeah.
I just want to highlight something that you said there, and I don't know how many people in here have done sales, but I've done sales during my life that's been direct commission, and this is basically that, right? Except for yourself. Sell all day, sell everywhere, sell in the grocery store while you're getting your lettuce, and it sounds silly, but you don't know who's going to be the next person who's going to suddenly go, oh, that's amazing, can I get a whole pallet of that? And it could be the person who's in front of you buying eggs. You just don't know. So you got to get over being able to sell, and I'm seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it really is, especially if you don't come from that world. I'm an educator by trade. My dad was a salesman, and I'm realizing I got a lot of Mr. Miyagi from him, like wax on, wax off, like being around him. Like he was kind of always selling, but he did that by just being a fantastic customer service person. He just cared deeply for his customers, and he showed that to them with his actions. And so I'm trying to do my best to honor that approach he had. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to that, the idea of selling being uncomfortable. If like you said, if you believe in what you're selling, you're doing them a service by introducing them to something they might like.
Yeah.
And you can trust other people to say I'm not interested in that. It might feel uncomfortable to put yourself out there, but people can also think you've been on the other side of sales where you're I don't want that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it is one funny thing. Oh, look at me subtly guiding you to doom scroll. In doom scroll, this your whole goal is to sell stuff. But ideally, during the course of the game, you're oh man, if this came up, this fantasy product, if fantasy orc ball was a thing, I'd totally buy a subscription to that, right? So part of the lesson here for students is yeah, we're being targeted, but sometimes it's you're oh, thank God they targeted me. I didn't know that existed, and that's a really sweet thing, right? Yeah.
Bouncing off the slide is what others are saying. You don't necessarily have to lock yourself to just the media and events either. You can even break down to a one-on-one. Let's say you're just, you're showing your game off at a local convention. Just even during that one person who comes to play their game, just kind of talk to them throughout the game. Ask them how it's going so far. What do they like? Tell them changes you made, what it used to be. Really show them, connect with them as if you're trying to make a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you look at those customers and those people as just connections and fans and friends that you haven't met yet, I think that just is going to help you build your brand really organically. Absolutely. Just some strategies to keep in mind. I mentioned this before. Don't try to, smattering shotgun blast hit everyone. Really understand who your target market is, understand what your brand is. Just build that and really try to honor that. One thing I showed before was Underdog has this philosophy. This is what we want to do. I think that's really good. My new brand motto that I'm trying to build up is delivering thrills while building skills, and trying to have that be our tagline for schools. This is going to be really enjoyable for your students, but also they're skill building. We're not tricking them into learning. They're just building skills while doing something really enjoyable. These are actionable skills that they can use later in life through our games, right? That's our goal. It's going to be fun, but it's not we're pulling the wool over their eyes. That's my biggest pet peeve with educational games. We tricked them into learning. You know photosynthesis now. Congrats. No, it's oh, you now know how to persuasively speak. You now know how to connect and run a thread through these ideas that seem like they're not connected, right? These are all skills that you'll have to do in your future careers or your just life every day, right? So understanding that market is really important, and just you should, I mentioned this last year in one of my presentations, but you should be able to describe a person. You should be able to say oh, I've got this guy, he's a little nerdy, he teaches high school science, he wants to start a game club, but he's looking for ways to justify it to his principal, right? Boom. Hey, check out Game Stormers. It's a game where you make a game. This could bleed into curriculum. This could be something that is just a really cool fit for your game club. This is a sell to your principal because we have curriculum on our website for our games. Bam, right? That's like a target demographic for me, right? That's my sweet spot right there. So just understanding who that is and thinking about what would they like to see, what would they like to experience, what would they like to hear. So tools of the trade for publishing. As fast as a visual editor as you can pick. It doesn't matter at this stage if you're a publisher because you're probably going to offboard it. Either you have the skill as a graphic designer or artist or you're going to offboard that to somebody. So you need something that you can iterate in really fast. And it doesn't matter what it is. I feel a little ashamed to say it. Like I do the majority of my stuff in Google Slides because that's a ubiquitous K-12 product. And so I can iterate in it really fast. I know other designers use, I mentioned Canva, Figma. Some people just use PowerPoint, like they're comfortable in PowerPoint. There's nothing wrong with it because you're gonna pass this off and say, prettify this to somebody else. Or you already use a better editor. You need to have something that's as fast as possible. Some of you might have automation tricks that you use in other programs, or you have a program that lets you automate. I honestly, like the tweaks I make, I probably by the time I automate them, I could have done it faster like with my slide deck. So I just have a slide deck that's like a 2.5 by 3.5 card or a big one where I can have an interface I work with. Yes, there are specific tools for like designing cards and we'll talk about them with the print on demand, but whatever you can be fastest in, I feel like is your best bet because you just need to be able to iterate and change it. And yeah, you can absolutely do a low tech too. Yeah, comment, question?
Bouncing off that, this is arguably for everybody in the room. Don't be afraid to just really just talk to people or like even just go local, just message the person online. Because if you like don't have the time for the tools or you're just you're garbage, zero, you don't know a thing. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Find a local artist. It may cost you some money, it may not. I actually lucked out pretty good. I have a high schooler doing my art for me, and I am getting a steal, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My artist, I was her first client, and she did phenomenal work, and now she's making games for tons of like bigger deals than me. Let's just put it that way. And but she gives me now a founder's discount. She's like, "You're my first client. This doesn't start without you, my company." And so like, take a chance on some people if they show you their commitment. If you talk with them and you get something drawn up that's a good fit for both of you, for sure do that. Another tool I'll say is when you're quick iterating, again, you're probably going to pass this off to somebody who's well versed in it. So I use Flat Icon for my iconography. Gamesicons.net is another great one that has icons specifically for board, card, video game. And then I don't use AI in the final product, just want to clarify that. But if you need to give people a feel for your game, one free AI tool that I like, there are hundreds right now, and I know AI can be a naughty word. I've used Leonardo, and it's just to iterate to get like a sense of the art, and then I pay artists to do it. I just want to clarify that. But again, there are hundreds. Like I could have gone on and on. This was the one that I found the most per day, but I, again, just use that for prototyping and then it goes and I get humans to do the work. I'm not going to start like an AI knife fight in here, but I don't use it for the final product. Just want to clarify for that as well. So we don't have much time. Print on demand. We've got 5 minutes. I can do this. Okay. So print on demand. One of the reasons we're here today is GameCrafter has put this on. Obviously a big print on demand presence. There's tons of other platforms. Some things to think about with this. Whoops, we'll skip that just in the interest of time. So you are gonna have a nice mix between that benefits of pitch and that benefits of publish. So you are going to still have say in what the vision of this product is gonna look like, but you also don't have the pressures of manufacturing, of doing all those logistics, getting it across the pond, that sort of thing. You've got that kind of benefit of not having to worry about both in this regard. One thing you need to be okay with is that you are offboarding some of the cost onto the consumer. So if you use these sites, a lot of times you are putting that onus on somebody else to take on that cost. So just keep that in mind. Like it's going to be more affordable for you to do it, but it is going to be more expensive for the end user just because print on demand is expensive, right? Bulk is cheap. Ones and twos gets a little bit trickier, right? Just keep in mind too that it is an opportunity for you to prove yourself, right? We talked about that audience building that can happen. This is an opportunity for you to audience build a little bit with a print on demand and then show that to a publisher as well. Just make sure you check the fine print for who you're using for your print on demand and make sure there's nothing in the agreements that would prevent you from doing something like that. Typically, that is welcome and allowed. So this can be an opportunity if you put it on a print on demand site. You could have this kind of show like, hey, there's genuine interest. People are willing to pay a premium to get my game. It might have legs, as a published product in your lineup as well. One thing that I think is really important to keep in mind is that print on demand, your art can get you noticed in the big wide swath, but the gameplay is what's gonna get those reviews, right? So if you're a print on demand publisher, people's eyes might be drawn to that cover image that you have for your print on demand. But ultimately, what's going to keep you something that people will be drawn to in the overall medium is that people are reviewing and saying, yes, this was enjoyable, happy with my purchase, the experience was good, people were laughing, people were connecting, people were strategizing, friendships were ruined, right, because the gameplay was so intense. Those are the things you want to hear. And then the other thing too, this was touched on by some of the comments we've had. All of these print on demand and print platforms, they have communities. If you're present in the community and you show you're helping other PODers, we have to have a better name for that. But anyways, if you show you're connected with the community, people are going to be more willing. Just like that whole idea of if I know you, I'm more willing to support your product, right? So if you can be present in those communities, whether it's a Discord, Facebook, insert platform here, that is going to give you a better chance of people bumping into your product and people being less weird about you promoting it because you're helping out in the community too. Some strategies to keep in mind. How am I doing? 2 minutes, okay. I'm not panicking, you're panicking. Be mindful of the materials you make your game out of because you are offboarding that expense to the end user. Like if I'm between this square mat and this neoprene mat, this is $19 on the Game Crafter. This is $2, right? So think about that. Like, yeah, the neoprene mat is awesome, right? It's a giant mouse pad of gameplay, yay, right? But it's not really that cost effective for the end user, right? If I want them just to experience the core gameplay, I should probably be mindful of what materials I'm choosing, right? Not to crap on neoprene mats, really, neoprene mat fan, right? If you're doing a tool of the trade, you can't get much better than the Game Crafter's Component Studio. So that is kind of their go-to product that they offer that allows you to iterate very quickly. So this is a great tool to use if you are wanting to move past and do more automation past just the visual editor I talked about before. If you do want something that can help you quickly iterate, Component Studio is there. It does have a cost associated with it, but a lot of people say it is worth the bang for the buck. So that is something to consider if you're using a print on demand. Another tool I'll just get a plug-in for, I use Fiverr for a lot of my products, and that's a great one if you want to get some art, but you don't want to be pumping thousands of dollars into art. Fiverr is great. Prices start at $5 if you didn't put that together. I'll just say, like on my Kickstarter, I needed an epic voice. Found a fantastic guy on Fiverr to voice our Kickstarter and do the epic voice, right? That's just a great use of Fiverr, right? I've had people, my logo, my Game Store Media logo, Fiverr logo. Woman did a great job. I paid her, I think, $35 for 4 iterations and changes and updates on this. And she did a great job. Now you can have AI do your logos. Again, that's a ethical question for you, but woman on Fiverr, fantastic. And now I've got a connection with her if I need future, design work with that. So if you are trying to keep those costs down, I've been only happy with my Fiverr experiences. I know that's not true for everybody, but Fiverr has been fantastic.